congratulate each and every one of you who have made it possible for us to have quality audience in this large auditorium. Today is about truth and a book born from it. As we move forward as a nation, we will confront challenges that call for wisdom, courage, and collaboration. The story of what happened with the third term saga has been told by many people. Now it is time for me to tell the story from my own standpoint. What I aim to offer in my book, this particular book for which we are here, is the reflection of somebody who was at the driver's seat during the journey. As expected, there have been some serious omissions and plenty whitewashes about the role of some individuals in the saga. My focus is to narrate the facts in a manner that will help my compatriots appreciate the role that individuals who faced a crisis and remain committed to core values can play in taking society to a higher level. During the debate on the third term bid of President Obasanjo, I weighed these two competing concepts of the role of a legislator. I decided to marry the two concepts. I wanted senators to vote their mind on the question of whether to amend the Constitution to allow President Obasanjo a third term. I also wanted them to effectively represent the views of their constituents. To be an informed trustee, the senators needed to understand the views of their constituents before casting their vote. On this basis, the Senate adjourned to allow senators to consult with their constituents about the constitutional amendment. With this intervention, some senators returned to the plenary with enlightened views. Many who were previously overwhelmed with the exigencies of politics returned with the stories of the vehemence of their constituents. This Damascus experience changed the game on the third term vote. It was obvious that the majority of Nigerians wanted the National Assembly to keep faith with the constitutional limitation and tenure. To ensure that Nigerians saw how their representatives were responding to the most important question of democracy, the Senate decided to televise its proceedings. Publicizing the proceedings was faulted by those who wanted to smuggle into the Constitution the extension of tenure through undefined and darkly proceedings. They knew that if we isolate Nigerians from the proceedings and therefore reduce public pressure on the legislators, it could be possible to run through with the agenda. But I stood strong. The principal officers of the National Assembly stood strong. We overcame this intense pressure, even from the highest level of government. We continued to broadcast the proceedings. The result of the publicity and openness was that we ultimately secured our democracy. The degree of public interest the debate generated owed largely to decisions to televise our deliberations. This was about the origin of now institutionalized use of television to publicize the proceedings of National Assembly. The publicity of the proceedings made legislators to sit up and take seriously the art of lawmaking. No one wanted to be caught on camera, either sleeping or making disjointed statements. No one wanted to be seen by members of his or her community taking disgraceful position on such important issues. Publicly televised proceedings became a new incentive structure to improve the quality of proceedings in the Senate. Suddenly, we gained a new insight into the legislative craft, we were then ready to subject our decisions to parliamentary privileges. Without the leadership of the House of Representatives, we could not have carried out the people's businesses and foiled the orchestration to undermine Nigeria's constitutional due process. My overriding message today is that institutions matter. It matters. But leadership matters most. We need to focus on building the strongest and most resilient institutions of democracy and development. We need to have the best-in-class institutions, since economic and social development turns mostly on the quality of institutions. However, recent political experience teaches us that crafty autocrats can rob these institutions of meaning and use them against democracy and development. The third-term bid was almost a disaster, but for the vigilance and courage of National Assembly leaders who supported the due process and opposed an invasion of self-serving politicians. 2006 was very, I could even hear my heartbeat as a thick silence descended on the Senate floor. Many prominent politicians were on hand to observe proceedings. It is important to note that while the Senate was on recess, I decided to put in writing a speech that will emphasize to my colleagues the historic moment that they will usher in through their votes. That speech will be my last act of statesmanship to urge my colleagues to work on the path of constitutional democracy and not allow political expedience to overwhelm their sense of patriotism. The speech worked magic. After I delivered it and called for votes to determine whether the bill should be read a second time, there was total silence. To take it beyond doubt, I called for votes a second time. There was no vote for the bill to go to third reading. I struck the gavel. Third time was dead. Jubilation filled the hall. Senators pumped hands and embraced one another. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief, both those who supported and those who opposed the third term did. Now agreed that it deserved to die. One of my fears was that the outcome of the debate could damage the solidarity and support we had in the Senate, but I was proven wrong. The death of the third term, in fact, generated more solidarity and cooperation in the Senate. We became closer family. We saved the nation. In doing so, we saved the National Assembly from ridicule. Dear compatriots, I have taken us through this narrative to restate the simple truth that the salvation of democracy anywhere depends on the protection of due process. We have imperfect institutions, but as long as we are willing to uphold the basic tenets of democracy, which primarily requires that the citizens choose their leaders, and leaders, while in power, should not extend their mandates, we can cure these imperfections. The work of building a prosperous and stable society will task national and local leaders. It is work that requires us to mobilize all human and natural resources. It is work that cannot thrive in societies riven by conflicts and violent disagreements.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.